Do you have a good memory? And I don't mean, can you remember things perfectly? I mean, do you have a good memory? Do you have a memory from your past that makes you so happy and warm to think about? Now, I'm specifically thinking about childhood memories here, and I know that not everyone had the same type of childhood, and not everyone looks back on their childhood or the way that they were raised with fondness. In fact, you might be really unhappy with a lot of your childhood. But think back, if you can, and find a single moment where everything seemed good and right and calm. And keep that in mind. And I'd like to show you a passage I found in a book that gave me a lot of really wonderful insight on the idea of childhood memories and why they're so valuable. And I think we probably all know inherently that happy memories are really important, but this passage helped me put words to why I think that. And I hope that it'll be helpful for you too. So the book that I'm going to be referencing is The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And this was my quote-unquote big book for the summer. It was my first foray into any real Russian literature, and I just finished it last night as I'm recording this, and I was underlining page after page. My copy is so marked up by now, I probably used a whole pen on it, but I'm only going to talk about one part of it today, and that part comes from the very, very last chapter. Now don't worry, I won't spoil anything. In fact, I'm barely going to go into any plot at all. But what you do need to know if you haven't read the book is The Brothers Karamazov is about three brothers. Alyosha is the hero of the story, and he's the only one that I'm going to have time to talk about today. At the beginning of the book, for context, Alyosha is 19 years old. He spent some time in a monastery, and he's the most patient and genuine of the three brothers. So in this very last chapter of the book, it's an epilogue, it's apart from the main plotline. Alyosha is at a sad scene. It's the funeral of a young boy, and this young boy was part of a group of friends whom Alyosha had kind of taken under his wing. They were a rowdy group of schoolboys, maybe 13, 14, young, immature, but Alyosha has grown close to them, and they've grown to look up to him through this poor boy's illness and now at his funeral. And as they're walking away, right, with this kind of air of finality, Alyosha stops and thinks, I should say something. And so he stops and says, "Gentlemen, I should like to have a word with you, here, on this very spot." And then the book says, the boys gathered around him and turned to him at once with attentive, expectant eyes. And then he talks a bit about some important things from the plot that I won't spoil. But he says, and this is a little longer, but bear with me as I read it. He says, "Soon I shall leave this town, perhaps for a very long time. And so we shall part, gentlemen. Let us agree here, by Ilyusha's stone, that we will never forget, first, Ilyushechka, and second, one another. And even though we may be involved with the most important affairs, achieve distinction, or fall into some great misfortune, all the same, let us never forget how good we once felt here, all together, united by such good and kind feelings as made us two, for the time that we loved the poor boy, perhaps better than we actually are." And then he says, "You must know that there is nothing higher, or stronger, or sounder, or more useful afterwards in life than some good memory, especially a memory from childhood, from the parental home. You hear a lot said about your education, yet some such beautiful sacred memory, preserved from childhood, is perhaps the best education. If a man stores up many such memories to take into life, then he is saved for his whole life. And even if only one good memory remains with us in our hearts, that alone may serve someday for our salvation." And he goes on a while longer. It's really beautiful, and I wish I could read it all, but I'll stop there. And I want to focus on one specific point, the role that memories play in shaping our future. Alyosha says that one of these sacred memories could be considered the best education. Later in the chapter, he talks about maybe at some point in our life we'll be faced with the option to commit a great evil. And then this memory alone will save us, and we'll think, and I'm paraphrasing here, man, I was kind then and I liked that. I want to be that way again. I was genuine then and I want to be that way again. Now, remember that memory I asked you to think of at the beginning of the video. Think of it again now. And I'll tell you what mine was. When I was like maybe 5, 6, 7, my dad would sometimes work weekends. In addition to his normal 9-to-5 job, he was also a DJ, not the kind like Skrillex, but the kind where he'd play at weddings and Sweet 16s and parties like that to make extra money. And he was really good at it. But that meant that he would be away late at night. We were very little, my brother and I, so we would have been fast asleep by the time he got home. But he still wanted to spend time with us. And so he would tell us, hey, when I get back, if mom tells me that you guys were good, I'll wake you up and we'll have ice cream. And so of course we would be good, and we would go to bed, and we'd be fast asleep. And in the middle of the night, he'd walk into our room, wake us up from our bunk bed, and we'd go downstairs and have ice cream. So I don't know what your memory was, and maybe it had nothing to do with a parent. Maybe it had to do with a kind uncle or aunt or a friend who was nice to you at school. But here's the education that I get from my memory. Here's how I think it's going to shape my future. More than any parenting workshop or book, I think when I, Lord willing, have kids of my own, that memory alone might be the driving factor that leads me to choose to spend more time with my kids instead of just going right to bed. Because let's be honest, as a kid, waking up in the middle of the night for ice cream is a no-brainer. As an adult, for my dad, I'm sure he loved it, but it definitely had to take more intentionality. I'm sure he was exhausted, but he still took the time to set something up for us. And he formed those memories, and those are super, super formative to me now. Now, if you're listening and you are thinking, oh, that's sweet, I have a different experience. Maybe you feel like you don't have very many happy childhood memories to fall back on at all, let alone with your family. Well, I really hope you're still listening, because this passage from this book is especially for you. And if you read the book already, you saw this coming, but if you haven't, here's the kicker. Alyosha Fyodorovich, the main character in the Brothers Karamazov, did not have a happy relationship with his father, or really with his family. He's not making this speech as some like rosy-cheeked, little house on the prairie, leave it to Beaver, smiling, nostalgic kid. I won't get too much into the plot here, but his mom is dead, and his dad is awful. He's neglectful and abusive and totally forgets him. And his relationship with his brothers, they're close, but it's weird. It's not like great. In fact, throughout the book, a big plot point is that the Karamazov family is dysfunctional. It is not a rosy, happy place. Alyosha's not coming at this as a naive boy, and that's why this message is for you. Alyosha is standing here in front of these boys, this group of kids who are maybe 6 years younger than him, and who look up to him greatly. And instead of going on his way and just saying, that's it, this was sad, I'm sad, time to leave, he sees that he has an opportunity that none of the boys have. He has the opportunity to create a memory, and he calls the boys around and he draws their attention to what's important, and he says, don't forget this. I'll never forget you guys. And in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, when life is hard, think about this. And he gives them that memory. And in doing so, what he's saying is, even though my father was not there for me, even though I have been through a lot, I see somebody near me who's younger than me, who's as young as I once was when I was not treated well, and I think I have a shot to shape them and bless them. And he takes that shot. So whether you're someone who considers yourself to have had a happy childhood full of excellent role models, or whether you really don't and you feel like you were let down a lot, I want to encourage you that the power of a good, warm, kind, clean, generous memory is, in the words of Dostoevsky, speaking through Alyosha, perhaps the best education. I want to encourage you 2 ways. 1, think back and remember those childhood memories, those really good ones, and see what you can learn from them. And then 2, apply it and think, okay, I'm older now. It might be my turn to make sure that I'm giving the young people in my life good memories, not bad ones. And this can be for your children if you have them, or for friends, or for students, really anybody. But think about it, and let's try and help make good memories. Now, I do have a question for you, if you'd be willing to share. What is a good memory you have from your childhood? Or what is a good memory that you're looking forward to being able to create with your children or family or friends in the future? Thanks so much. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.